Welcome back, dear viewers. You're still watching The Breakfast Show live on Nile TV International. It's now time for our first topic of discussion for today. And despite the COVID-19 pandemic, national projects are underway in Egypt. And yesterday, President Fattah al-Sisi has inaugurated another mega national project, for the civilizational development project, Fishermen of Bashar al-Khair 3, Fishermen's Shelter in Alexandria, a very important national project which comes in line with the President Fattah al-Sisi's directives of continuing work despite the pandemic, but abiding by the precautionary measures to combat or curb the COVID-19. And to shed more light on this topic, we're most delighted to be joined here in the studio by Dr. Zeinab Nawar, and she's a professor of economics. Good morning, doctor, and thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, doctor, and happy Lasser Byron to you.
Thank you.
Let's talk about the fishermen phase 3 of Bashar al-Khair that was erected and inaugurated by President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. And of course, this is a quantum leap, like my dear colleague Karim just elaborated over. It is going to be a great opportunity for the low-income bracket to be able to live a decent life instead of the informal settlements, of course. And if we could look at the project in general or as a whole, we could see that the investment blocks and the commercial compound, and we could see the sports areas, and I mean it's a full ideal housing project which could be taken as a role model worldwide. So if you like to elaborate over that.
The most important thing about this project, that if we can imagine how these people used to live in these slum areas before, because living in slum areas, it's like living in a piece of hell, where you have no medical services, no education services, you have no appropriate shelter. People are living in extreme poverty. It's not about poverty, it's in extreme poverty. People who are not living in an appropriate place or a shelter, we call them that our people are living in extreme poverty. So you need to do such type of transformation of the living of standard of these people. What have been done, actually, it's a great effort, because you are going through such projects to transfer the lives of 50,000 Egyptians. This is not a few, they are not a few, they are many. 50,000 used to live in poverty, no appropriate services, no clean water, no sanitation, no electricity, garbage everywhere surrounding them. So this is not an appropriate life. And these places actually are so dangerous. We're not talking about economic effect, we're talking about social effect, where you will, of course, terrorism and crime will come out from these places. Is very normal. This is a very normal output of such, what to say, so bad living conditions. Have you been in a slum areas before? Have you went there?
Of course.
You will find that people are living in extreme poverty. I went to two places, two slum areas in Egypt, El Gayara and El Zabbalin. So you can imagine how the situation is so bad. So when you do such transformation to them, so you are getting those people from the poverty trap. You are trying to get them out from poverty, from being part of terrorism, being part of crime. You are giving a new lives for about 30,000, because if we are assuming that, of course, it's about 10,000 apartments. So for each apartment will live 5 individuals. So 2 as the parents, which are the older generations, and 3 which are the offsprings, which are the new generations. So you are creating a new life, a new future, a new hope for all of these. So the effect of all these types of reforming these areas, it's so important for the lives of the Egyptians.
And as we can see that there in this replica, there is a in this diagram, there is a before and after.
Yes.
Photos that it is going to show, of course, if you like to elaborate.
Yes.
How?
Yes.
It's over here at the monitor. If you like to continue to elaborate.
The elaboration, I hope that I can see it.
I mean, it shows the difference between before, how it was before, and the drastic differences now. It is. Yes, what are you saying? It's explaining
what used to be before that. These slum areas, as a lot of slum areas here in Egypt, they are back since the 60s. So this slum area since 1963. So we can imagine that we have different generations for decades living in this. Unfortunately, to say this bad place, we talk about pollution, we talk about garbage, we talk about even if we talk about the individuals and how you create a loyalty to them to feel that they are part of the country. People feel of their problems. People trying to get them out of poverty. So it means a lot. It means a lot. Transferring all these slum areas into a decent places to live in, this means that you are creating new generations and you are trying to get out from poverty, from crime, from diseases that may simply can die in these slum areas because you have a lot of garbage, so there are a lot of whatever insects, so diseases, so people can easily get disease and die. No clean water, no sanitation, so all of this will affect the humans and the human conditions.
Of course.
So of course such projects which we hope that will continue to reforming and to upgrading all these slum areas. It's a role model actually, because if you just click on the YouTube and you saw the different slum areas around the world, you will see that different countries and government, they truly suffer to do such type of transformation of these slum areas. But here in Egypt, we had done the project in 2.5 years, which is very what are you saying, very timely manner. The number of apartments, the engineering design of the place. You have place, of course, schools, hospitals, all types of services, also a commercial area, so people can also live in a decent conditions and in decent places, and also they can work in these commercial places. So you are creating new lives for about 50,000 Egyptians, and this is not a few things, this is a very great effort.
Doctor, also, how do you see the message that the government is trying to send to the people that despite the COVID-19 pandemic and the global emergency or the unprecedented global crisis, but Egypt is going ahead with the development projects, the national mega projects, but of course keeping in mind or keeping intact the precautious measures to curb the spread of the virus?
Of course, we have to go on because we can't stop. The lockdown that we had made, and unfortunately we had to do it. Of course, there are losses, but also people's health are so important. But we have to go on now. We have to produce, and we have to go on in the openings of the new projects. The importance also of the openings of all this national project, that it creates jobs. And one of the effects, negative effects of the COVID-19, that it's the losses of jobs. So if you'd like to create jobs, if you'd like to recover from what we had gone through, so we have to work, and the work through the national projects, it creates some sort of we call it public works. So there is a construction, so there is companies working, there is contractors, there are contractors and then subcontractors, and those are employing workers and accountants and lawyers, and those are employing also engineers and laborers. So all of this, it's creating jobs, and this is what we need for the recovery of the COVID-19. If you would like to think what we're gonna do in the future, so we have to work, we have to continue work, we have to continue the openings of the national projects, because we need more jobs, and also we need more maybe part of the packages to be again introduced to the small and medium enterprises. I just read it 2 days ago that the parliament started to discuss the new law for the small and medium enterprises, which gives a lot of incentives to the small and medium enterprises in Egypt. So why they are doing this in such critical time? Because we would like to work, we'd like to come back to work, we'd like to give incentives, and we'd like to create more jobs. And this is what the national projects are doing.
Also, when we talk about the Egyptian leadership's keenness over elevating the livelihood of this low-income brackets and improving, like you elaborated generously, over improving the quality of their lives, and it has there is a great space inside the Egyptian leadership's planning to be able to improve their lives. There are different efforts. Even while we are fighting one of the most dangerous viruses, the world is completely at a case of plateau. Egypt is developing with its projects, inaugurating the projects, I mean, the mega projects, working very hard to improve the livelihoods of those income brackets. How do you see that? How do you assess it?
I assess it actually that the type of, the type of project that the government is working on, and if you talk about the poor, it's very, I would say that they are, each type of project are completing each other. If we talk about the national projects, so we are creating jobs partially for the poor. If we talk about packages to be given to the poor, if we talk about takaful karama, which we talked about previously, and all types of pensions to the poor, cash transfer to the poor, and now we have the improvement or the transformation of the slum areas also for the poor. So you see the integration of such type of projects. And it's very important to do it, because when you talk about economic growth, you have to talk also about economic development. And this is what you do when you are getting the poor from poverty trap and try to put them on the line that they can have a decent medical service, educational service, cash transfer, money for them to buy a proper food, improving their life standards through the transformation of the slum areas. So all of this, you are trying to create a decent life for the poor, which is very important part from economic development. We can talk about economic growth without talking about the human conditions and the human living conditions, which is a must. So this is what the government is trying to do, and this is what actually the President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi is hardly trying to do it hardly actually, that we are just trying to maintain a high standard of economic growth as much as we can, given that we have a coronavirus, so of course we will have an effect on the economic growth. Plus we are trying just to work with the people on the ground. We are trying to improving the lives of the poor. Plus, if there is several stimulus packages also to deal with the COVID-19 effect, like what the government had presented for wherever, for the aviation, for the tourism sector, even what the central bank had offered before. All of these, I'm just trying to get out people from be part or what to say, be part of poverty. I'm just trying to stop the cycle of the poverty. I'm just trying to decrease the effect of COVID-19 on people, and especially on the poor. So all of these efforts are completing each other, and I hope that we just continue doing this, because we don't have other options. We have to continue and continue working, and we have also to sustain and to support the poor and to support the needy, which is very important part from achieving economic growth, which is economic development.
Doctor, also during the speech of the President, he had reiterated on the illegal or the violators when it comes to construction and the disrupting the projects, the national projects of the government, and they have to be held accountable and they will have to be brought to justice. How do you see these comments made by the President?
Actually, this speech is very important because we are facing a lot in Egypt, and our economy is facing a disaster because of corruption, and also because of the housing, the part of corruption that we have in the housing sector. It affects lives, it affects the economy of the country, it affects even our image. So I think it's time now to open this file. It's time to deal with people who are not abiding or respecting the law, because we are not talking, it's not about houses and having several apartments and extra apartments. No, these apartments have been designed in not a proper way, so maybe the whole of the building will collapse, so people will die, and sometimes it takes years to get to know who is responsible for this. So it means that loss of lives, loss of our image, losses in the economy. There is no income to the Egyptian budget, because those who are doing this, they just find their own ways not to pay taxes and not to pay the fees and to get the electricity free and the water free. So all of this had to be stopped because they are harming the economy, and all of this practice has to be stopped. So this is very important action, and I hope that there will be an implementation all over Egypt, because we have this illegal practice everywhere actually. That should be dealt with, and dealt with them in the hard way. I'm sorry to tell so. Yeah.
Actually, what Karim just raised is one of the most important and thorny issues when it comes to corruption. The corruption of the construction corruption and the construction violations of rules of constructing. Building extra levels of buildings, I mean, that is violating the certain number of flights in a building or something. I mean, building in extra areas, eradicating the green areas and erecting buildings, concrete instead of it. I mean, those ugly violations, it is tarnishing our image of awareness, our culture and everything. And even our health-wise. I mean, our health, it's also posing our health to danger. So if you would like to elaborate over the different threats and dangers that are related to those violations when it comes in particular to the housing and construction.
The main thing that could happen, that if we had lived in an apartment or a building where it's not designed properly, so it will collapse, so we may die. So it has a big...
And it happened many times.
It happens many times, and it affects even our international image, that it's some sort, it's a part of risk. So I think it's a problem of culture, plus it's also we need to do a lot of reform for the municipalities and for al-ahya, because al-hayy here in Egypt, this is who allows such type of corruption and practice. So if we'd like to stop such illegal actions, because we would like to save lives, so it's part of it, it's culture. So any of us who just sees this illegal practice, we have to go and to wherever, to the police offices, and just announce this in the media, for example. And also there should be close monitoring for al-ahya and the municipalities in Egypt. And it's not on the governorate level, and also on the village level, because sometimes in villages, al-wahadat al-mahalliyya, they would allow for the building of housing for any villages, which is not right. People may just build their houses on agricultural land. So the issue is so broad. It's not about the buildings here we see in Cairo or in Nasser City, or maybe we have one of the neighbors he just constructed 2 or 3 levels. It's not about this. It's much, much more wider and bigger. So it needs a comprehensive effort to stop this illegal, and we have to start by the governmental places, agencies that allow for this illegal and that allow for this corruption, because I'm sorry to tell you, so the municipalities, wahadat al-mahalliyya wal-ahya, they allow for this, and they see all this types of illegal, and they just do nothing for this. And also it's the rule of the police and the police officers, because if you see that there is an illegal, and also part of this, that if you see that these buildings have been built illegally, so it's the part of al-ahya, and plus the police officers to go to this place and just to whatever they do, the illegal thing that should be done. So it's in the enforcement of the law, it's culture, it's enforcement of law on the government level, and also on the people level.
Yes, the president himself have given a great space of his speech to strictening the laws and enforcing the laws when it comes to penalties that should be put over or taken over violations. He talked about that in his speech.
Yes, so it's now 2 parts of 2 sides of the coin. It's the rule of the governments, and it's the rule of al-wahadat al-mahalliyya wal-ahya, and the places that they are allowing for this, to stop them from doing so. And also it's our rule as Egyptian citizens not to do this. And if we saw someone is doing such an illegal practice, we have definitely to raise the issue to the media. We have to go to the police officers, we have to go al-ahya, we have to talk about it, because we have to stop this illegal practice.
Doctor, also another related aspect, how do you see the government's response to the COVID-19 crisis?
The Egyptian government response, actually, it's
The
a
Ministry
great
of Health,
response. It's a
Population,
great
of course,
response.
the Ministry of Social Solidarity, all the ministries.
Yes, it's a great response. It was gradual response, a lot of stimulus packages to different sectors which had truly had a bad effect and negative effects, like the tourism, like the aviation. So I see that we have well-planned steps. All of this actually helped the Egyptian citizens, started from those who are taking loans from banks who have been deferred for 6 months, and going to governmental whatever agencies and different private sector companies who their whatever business have been affected by this disaster, which is COVID-19. So the government had also worked on different levels of stimulus packages and supporting different economic sectors, whether we talk about public sector or whether we talk about private sector, whether we talk about the poor or whether we talk about the middle income population. So it was great effort.
Yes. Dr. Zeinab Nawar, Professor of Economics, really appreciate your insight and your presence with us on The Breakfast Show. Thank you so much, and we wish you a very happy Eid and Eid Mubarak.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And dear viewers, now we move on to a quick break and then be back to resume The Breakfast Show live on Nile TV International.